thing about Juan Gold. He's not a troll. He's a well thought out, and most of his responses are well thought out.
Now that's the only truthful thing Stevens says in this entire video. What you're about to see and hear is from Stevens' No State Project episode 77. In this, Marc Stevens is advising one of his victims, Tom, to possibly commit a felony. Tom is concerned with recording his court appearance. Many courts don't allow recording devices. As a matter of fact, one of Marc's victims was recently jailed for contempt of court for having one. But Stevens couldn't care less. You'll hear Stevens say when caller Tom tells him recording could be a felony, Stevens shrugs it off by saying, "It's always knowing you're at risk." Hell, isn't that what most criminals think and say? And then Stevens proceeds to tell victim Tom how to skirt the law by secretly recording. What kind of mentor or friend would do that? Then he suggests Tom falsify the recording via transcription by leaving out things. What a dishonest, unethical, immoral suggestion. Then he compounds the criminality by suggesting victim Tom disseminate the illegal recording. Hell, Stevens doesn't give a shit about what may happen to his victims. He sits in his house convincing people to put themselves in legal jeopardy while never going to court himself and trying his own bullshit. Jeez, I can't believe his victims don't question the fact that Stevens never gets traffic tickets or goes to court.
That's one of the reasons that I
Listen
suggest,
for
and I
yourself.
do that myself. The first thing I ask is if there's a recording being made of the proceedings, because in a magistrate court like here, I mean they've gotten it down. I've explained this before, where when you check in at the window, the lady asks you, "How do you plea?"
Yeah.
At the window.
Yeah.
And I've said, "I'm not here to plea," and she says, "Well, then I don't know which courtroom to send you to if you don't plea." So that's the first step. Then when you get to the courtroom, if you are appearing in front of a magistrate and you ask the question, "Is there a recording being made of the proceedings today?" and they say no, now you know this is a practice run. You know damn well you're going to walk out of there and have to come back, and if you're not careful, you're going to go to jail because there's no record. There's nothing. They're not afraid to do it. They're real tyrants. I mean, screaming at people and everything else because no record being made. That's really scary.
You got to bring witnesses with you.
Yeah, and that's so hard. Everybody works. I mean, having a friend come with you is almost an impossibility.
You got to at least try. You do the role playing, and you got to try to see if there's somebody that can just sit there with you. I know it's tough, but
Yep.
Hey, if you have to, go to a spy shop. They're not that much money. You can get those sunglasses. They have an HD video recorder in there. They look just like sunglasses.
Well, that's always really a risk, because look what happened to Bao. You know, they used the excuse to put him in jail for contempt because he had a phone on him. He wasn't even in the court. There was no one there in the court. He showed up. There was no judge, nothing, nobody. But they still charged him with having a recording device. And in many of these states, I know I talked to an attorney about it here in Michigan, and he told me it's a felony to record in the courtroom. So you got to be real careful with that advice. I wouldn't give that advice at all.
Well, it's always knowing that you're at risk. That's why I say you can get pens. This isn't one of them, obviously, but you can get pens that record. So a phone is obviously a recording device. It has been for quite a long time now. But a pen or sunglasses. Hey, I was tricked. 4409 a number of years ago here in Phoenix. I had no idea. I mean, unless you're looking for it, you can't tell. And you got to get really up on those things to like, oh, wow, there is a lens in there. So you got it. That's why I say a spy shop, so you can get something that's not, that's not so conspicuous as a phone. Obviously, this is a recording device. So, yeah.
Well, there's one other problem with that, though, Mark. If you record something, okay, it's never admissible.
That's true.
Because, again, with digital days, everything can be edited, and so even if you did record it, it's only for your own personal use. It isn't going to help you at all unless you have an actual eyewitness friend or somebody with you. A recording device is useless.
Yeah, but you can transcribe a bit of that and make it look, leave some things out, and then say, look, these are from my notes. This is what the guy said. So it's some benefit there. Plus, you can always post it for other people to hear. You don't have to say. You can bleep names out, and you can post and say, listen to this. This is what happens in traffic court, and this has to be stopped.
In a grand demonstration of ignorance and pomposity, he misinforms victim Tom on what an objection of argumentative question means. Let's listen.
So when they say debate, there's a number of ways a number of leading questions we can ask them. Or we could just say, excuse me, I'm asking if the prosecution has any evidence. Why are you trying to mischaracterize that as a debate?
Right. Or they always like to also say your questions are argumentative.
That is a big again.
He had a really good.
How is asking?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But you want to address exactly how? So you're telling me in your court, as opposed to every other court in the world, merely asking for evidence that the prosecution relies on, you deem that to be argumentative. How so? Explain it, bitch. Right? A little Jesse Pinkman. I'm rewatching Breaking Bad, so yeah, you're bringing out, and I appreciate it, things that we haven't discussed in a while, but we've discussed it quite a bit. That's a very common one, and look, you have to at least make your objection, put him on a spot, and he may just say he's not going to allow it. But now you have grounds to recuse him because he's not allowing you to defend yourself. He's not allowing you to defend yourself under the guise of debating, which is not true. Asking if the prosecution has evidence to support their claim is not argumentative. Where's the argument? And if the argument, Tom, is that you're saying that the prosecution, because this is the motion, that your argument is that the prosecution doesn't have any evidence, that's a legitimate legal defense. You're in court to make argument. My gosh, this is the stupidest gosh darn thing I've ever heard, Tom. You are in court. This is the time to make legal arguments. To turn around and say you're being argumentative, it's the same as saying I don't like you defending yourself. You defend yourself by making arguments. It is the most god-awful, stupid thing a judge can say. So this is what I would say, Tom. You know what, sir? I want to make sure that this is being recorded because I want the appellate panel to hear that you're actually going to deny me an opportunity to defend myself because you're saying I'm making legal arguments in a court of law. You imbecile.
That's...
Oh, my God. Asking if the prosecutor has produced evidence to prove something is argumentative because it doesn't really seek information. It challenges the prosecutor's evidence credibility. In other words, an argumentative question asks for a particular interpretation or characterization of the evidence, as opposed to a particular fact. Instead, Stevens is supposed to submit contradictory evidence, which Stevens never does. Stevens believes the common misconception that an objection of argumentative means you're arguing or want to argue. A typical pseudo-lawyer mistake. Most of the questions Mark was telling victim Tom to ask are actually asking for legal advice and are improper. When he said, "Explain, bitch," he was being juvenile. He does that a hell of a lot. And his emotional rant following that expletive demonstrates how psychologically unstable Stevens is. Stevens' reference to an appeal or recusal on the issue is wrong and ignorant because it's based on him not knowing what the hell is meant by argumentative questions. Now really, would any rational or logical person buy into this nonsense? Perhaps this says as much about those who believe Stevens, like victim Tom, as it does about Stevens. Hey, stay tuned for my next video soon to be released. It's entitled Marc Stevens' Epic Fail. It will show how the whole foundation of Stevens' website, YouTube videos, radio show, and books are all based on a false premise that Stevens sells to his victims. Stevens is either outright lying or is just too stupid to know what he is saying. Stay tuned.
Go home, folks.